So remember Homestar Runner? That lovable little cartoon character with no arms and an adorable speech impediment. Ever wonder what happened to him and why we never hear anything about him anymore? At one point in time, Homestar Runner was one of the most popular websites on the internet. But if you ask kids these days if they even knew what Homestar Runner was, they'd probably tell you they didn't. The thought randomly popped into my mind the other day, and it just left me wondering what happened to Homestar Runner. So if we really want to get the full story here, we'll need to do a little time traveling. Oh, what? You've never seen a time machine before? Shh. Ooh, almost forgot the crystal. Let's do this. Ooh, just give me a second. Oh, hang on. Oh. Did we make it? Just give me a second. Oh, I think we made it. The year is 1996. Bill Clinton is president. The Nintendo 64 is the hottest new gaming console. The Macarena tops the Billboard Hot 100. And the Nutty Professor is playing at a theater near you. Our story begins with two brothers, Mike and Matt Chapman, also known as the Brothers Chaps. Matt, the voice behind Homestar, Strong Bad, and many of the other characters, was attending film school in Tallahassee, while his brother Mike was studying photography at the University of Georgia in Athens. So one afternoon during summer break, Mike was hanging out with his buddy Craig at a bookstore when they came across the children's section. They took a look around and realized, hey, all these books kinda suck. So, as bored college students do, they decided to make their own. They went back and came up with a story titled The Homestar Runner Enters the Strongest Man in the World contest. This is where most of the main characters made their debut, including Homestar, Strong Bad, Pom Pom, and the Cheat. They took their book down to the local Kinko's, made a few copies, and handed them out to their college friends. Later that year, the brothers would create their first animated work using the most state-of-the-art technology at the time, Mario Paint. The brothers said they wanted to give it a poorly translated foreign cartoon vibe, and that definitely comes across here. After creating the Mario Paint cartoon, that was it for a few years. Homestar existed as a little homemade comic book and a Mario Paint doodle, and that was pretty much it. Until one day, a little thing came along known as Flash. So around the turn of the millennium, the internet was just beginning its awkward transition phase from a primarily text-based medium to a more multimedia-rich experience. Being in school for the arts, it was around this time that the brothers started to experiment in web and graphic design. They started working on new programs like Photoshop, Adobe Illustrator, and of course Flash. And what better material to use as test subjects than their creation? During this period, people were just beginning to realize the full potential of online entertainment. With sites like eBump's World and Newgrounds just starting to take off, Flash was quickly becoming king. And the stage was set for Homestar to become the sensation it once was. In January of 2000, the brothers launched the Homestar Runner website to little fanfare. There was no big announcement, no advertising, no grand opening. In its early days, the site was actually only getting 2 or 3 views per day. That kind of reminds me of my YouTube channel. Slowly but surely, the site began to gain users, almost entirely through word of mouth. One thing the brothers decided from the very beginning was to keep the site ad-free. This was such a refreshing change, as most other websites at the time were riddled with banner ads and pop-ups. The decision to keep ads off the site is part of what made it so successful. While this was great and all, it meant that there was no easy source of income for the site. Without ads, increased traffic to your site doesn't necessarily equate to increased revenue without a little extra work involved. So the brothers decided, what better way to support the site than to start selling merch? The brothers started selling t-shirts out of their parents' house in Georgia, which quickly became their main source of income for the site. It was around this time that things really started to take off. They started creating weekly cartoons, which is when Strong Bad Emails and Teen Girl Squad made their debut. By 2003, the site was pulling in enough profit from merch sales alone to support both brothers. Their financially conservative father actually told them to quit their jobs so they could work on the site full time. The boys went all in over the next few years, expanding the site from just Flash cartoons to live action stuff, puppets, DVDs, toys, and even video games. This was the time period that gave birth to Trogdor and early games like Awesome Cross. Awesome Cross? Awesome Cross? The early to mid 2000s was really the golden age of Homestar Runner. With viewership and creativity at an all-time high, Homestar, and maybe even to a greater extent Strong Bad, had become pop culture icons. In 2008, we saw the release of Strong Bad's Cool Game for Attractive People, a point-and-click style adventure game that was released for the Wii and PlayStation 3. The game met with mixed reviews. Longtime Homestar fans, of course, largely embraced the game, but the general public was less impressed, to say the least. By the end of the decade, the brothers were both married with children. While they loved what they were doing, they also realized that because they refused to advertise on the site, there really was no sustainable business model. They knew they wouldn't be able to support their families indefinitely off of merchandise sales alone. So what did they do? Did they finally cave in and start putting ads on the site? No, they didn't. They just kind of stopped making stuff. After Matt had his second daughter, the brothers decided to take a break from working on the site and started looking for other jobs in the entertainment industry. In December of 2009, Matt announced that the site updates would be few and far between due to the arrival of his new baby. After that, the site remained largely abandoned, and fans were left wondering, what happened to Homestar Runner? Is this the end? And it stayed like that for quite a while. For years, the site existed in limbo, receiving very little to no updates at all. In 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, nothing. But finally in 2014, Matt posted an announcement that the duo would resume regular updates on the site again. And sure enough, starting in October of 2014 with the release of the short Fish Eye Lens, Homestar Runner was resurrected. Well, at least partially. It was also around this time that Strong Bad started tweeting, but things weren't exactly taking off. It took until April Fool's Day of 2015 for the new Strong Bad email to come out, a first in 5 years. A year later, on April 1st, 2016, what is it with these guys in April Fool's Day? We saw the release of Marzipan's Answering Machine, episode 17. This was the first update in 7 years. This episode was not only their longest cartoon ever at over 30 minutes, but it was the first to not be displayed using Flash, which is probably a good thing because at this point, the iPhone was well into the process of brutally murdering the platform. But that's a story for a different day. Later that year, Homestar would celebrate his 20th birthday with a series of live shows in Atlanta featuring musical performances and, of course, puppets. So what are Homestar and his buddies up to these days? Is the website still around, or was their revival just temporary? Especially considering Flash is no longer around on any modern browser. I wasn't even sure before I started making this video. So why don't we go check it out together? All right, here we go, fingers crossed. And would you look at that, it's still here. Certainly looks familiar enough. And new content too. So why did Homestar become so popular in the first place? And why isn't Homestar popular anymore? Well, to answer this question, I think we can attribute the success to 4 main components. We have originality, quality, consistency, and community. Homestar Runner was something completely new for the time. When the site made its debut, there really wasn't a whole lot of competition out there for online entertainment. Flash was really in its infancy at the time, and there just wasn't a whole lot of quality content. The brothers really had their own unique and original style of humor, which combined elements of pop culture, early internet slang, and surreal comedy. This distinct and unusual style of humor likely helped the series stand out and attracted a dedicated audience. When it comes to quality, the content on Homestar Runner was truly in a league of its own for the time. I mean, this video is over 20 years old, and if someone told me it was made last month, I'd believe them. You can tell the brothers really took their time and put in effort into producing consistently high quality content that was both funny and well crafted. Add to that the fact that Homestar had no ads and no pop-ups, and there really was no competition. I mean, just take a look at what else was out there at the time. Terrible web design with equally terrible content. I mean, clicking through some of these, I honestly don't think much of this would hold up at all today. One of the biggest factors in Homestar Runner's success was their consistency. When the brothers started releasing recurring bits on regular schedules, like Strong Bad Email and Teen Girl Squad, viewers kept coming back expecting regular updates. And the more often a person returned to the site, the more likely they were to share it with their friends. Not only was the site being constantly updated, the brothers were engaging with their audience. They were very active in the site's online forums and regularly interacted with their fans, creating a sense of belonging and connection. This took place at a time before social media. and the Homestar Runner website became a place where people could connect and share their love of the content. So the site took off, the brothers took a hiatus, and then they started producing content again. So why isn't Homestar Runner all over the front page of YouTube? Why hasn't the site returned to its former glory? Well, let's take a look back at the things that made it popular in the first place. We talked about originality and quality. While there wasn't a whole lot of competition for high quality, original content in the early 2000s, today's internet is completely saturated in it. One possibility is that the site simply ran its course, and the content began to feel kind of stale. And for consistency, that broke when the brothers took their hiatus in 2009. This could not have happened at a worse time, because this was the period in which Flash died off. Apple's decision to not include Flash support on the iPhone was a death sentence for Flash content. This was the beginning of the smartphone revolution, and the brothers just weren't around for it. People began shifting their attention to social media and other forms of online entertainment, and since they were taking a break during this period, they totally missed their opportunity to jump on the mobile bandwagon. They could have made an iPhone app or updated their website to work on mobile, but unfortunately they just weren't around for it. As more and more people began spending their time on platforms like Facebook and YouTube, it became harder and harder for Homestar Runner to compete for attention, especially when it wasn't being updated regularly. Fortunately, that's not the end of the story. The website is still around today, and they are still releasing new content. And while the site may not be as popular as it once was, it will always have a special place in our hearts. Well, that's about it for today, folks. Thank you for watching this episode of Internet Spectacular. I hope you enjoyed learning something about the story of Homestar Runner. Let me know in the comments what your favorite Homestar Runner content was back in the day. Mine was definitely Teen Girl Squad. Totally identify with the ugly one. The ugly one! If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe if you feel like it. It's free. Until next time, this is Alex, signing off.